Right.
All right, mine's just not showing, but that's probably just slow. All right, so Shabbat Shalom, and welcome back. I'm holding here in my hand, a singular hand, 2 tablets. And John and I were joking. Some of you have seen, I posted this before, where it's a cartoon. And Moses is holding what looks like a tablet, like this kind of tablet. And he said, look, it's really cool because you can turn it and the words turn sideways. You know, and we laugh and we joke and we say, yeah, that's funny, that's cute. But we tend to think about, and we'll get into more of this in the next couple of weeks, but we tend to think that this is some primitive, go get a slab of marble, you know, really, really big, and let's, you know, chisel into it, you know, and put Roman numerals on it. You know, we have these ideas that float around in our head. But I think that there's something about this particular study that can shed light on things that are very important that we assume we already know. Like, even though I think many people who listen to our classes have heard this brought up before, that the testimony is actually the 10 words, and that's what's on the 2 stone tablets, and that is placed. You've heard that. But I'm wanting to get a little bit more into this. For instance, here's a question. Did the first set of tablets ever make it into the box? Think through, because remember now, today I talked about this is the tent of the testimony, and you put the testimony in the box, but remember, I never really got to the point.
Didn't they build that after they got this? What do we do with these tablets? Oh, well, it's in a box.
No, it's interesting, the order and how this stuff comes down. But what happens to the first set of tablets? Now, I'm getting a little bit into next week's class. What happens to them?
Well, actually, Moses went into the mountains and God told him to build a box, a wooden box.
Okay.
And I think he put it, and I'm assuming he put them in there. I'm just saying that.
All right.
And it doesn't really say how big this box is.
All right.
So
so that's a good point. We have a story in Deuteronomy about a box that Moses builds. Now, all of this stuff's going to come out in a real detailed class, but it's fun to go ahead and talk. I want you to start thinking about this. So what I want to start with today, I noticed Sharon had a question because she's thinking about text. So Moses gets the first set. Let's call them set number 1. This is the testimony.
By the hand of God.
By the hand of God, written mizeh, from this side and that side, and it's inside and out, and it's, you know, the work of God and the finger of God, and here Moses comes back down, and you remember the story, the people are acting a little bit rambunctious, and there's some bad things going on, and he throws them down. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to break my tablets, but he throws these down. The work of God, Moses throws to the ground and destroys them. Now, he has to do it again. He has to make more. Now, that's part of what we're getting into next week. But
So the original ones made by the hand of God were destroyed.
that's right. Now, from this point on, and I don't want to go too much into this because it's next week's class. From this point on, people make all sorts of assumptions. They think they know. In other words, did Moses some people go, well, wait a minute, who made the first stone tablets, and did Moses write the second ones, or did God write the first ones and Moses wrote the second ones, or is any of that in the Bible? Or does the Bible tell us what happened? Now look, this is real important. This is 101, Bible 101. This is the most important subject in all of the Torah. It's the heart of the Torah, the whatever is written on these stone tablets, and where they're kept and everything about it. We ought to really know this. So next week's class is going to fill in all the blanks for us.
So you'll tell us where they went?
Yeah, we have to. We have to talk about.
Well, I mean, if it's
Today,
written,
you mean like where they went today?
no, then, like after
Yeah,
they were
what happened to the
destroyed,
broken
what happened to
and
the
who?
destroyed-
But for a second
Well-
there, we were gonna do an expedition.
They could find the pieces, huh?
Yeah, you would think archaeologists could find the pieces, but
Well, they don't even
what-
know where this
yeah.
mountain is for sure.
That's
Okay,
right.
so-
We might have been there.
Yeah,
So,
I might have picked it up. Yeah, I picked up a few rocks.
if it was that important, wouldn't it be written somewhere in the Torah?
Why do you?
It
what-
is.
But
Okay.
why do you
What happened
assume?
to them?
Oh well, we get a little bit. We
Yeah.
get a little bit, but so people think about it now. The text that we get in the biblical narrative tells us what was written on them. Now the problem comes in. This is part of next week's class too. I have pages of notes already for next week's class. I just had to cut it off today. You'll notice I was a little bit under my normal time today because I stopped right where I needed to stop because next week picks up. We have questions. Did that first set of tablets ever make it to the box, or were they destroyed? And when they were destroyed, what about these second tablets?
See, I-
Who made them?
I'm not sure of the chronology because I'm not reading the text.
Yeah,
The box that God told Moses to build out of wood, a simple box, I guess you could call it.
Okay.
I'm assuming
All right.
the text says that again.
all right.
Was that the first or the second set? I say I don't know that.
Yeah, that's where we're going to go next week.
Okay.
We're going
Which
to
one was the
clarify
box?
that.
Okay.
Because what we have is we've got two sets of tablets. We've got two boxes. Remember, I made the comment. A lot of things that I do when I teach, I want to make you think. I want you to look at the text because we have assumptions. You put people around the table and they start talking about it, and this is a fundamental point of the biblical revelation, and people miss details. So I want to clarify that. So I'm not just going to leave you totally hanging, but what I want to say is today I mentioned that in Deuteronomy we have no mention of the tent of the testimony. We have no mention of the tabernacle of the testimony. We have no mention of the ark of the testimony. We do have a box. Now the ark of the testimony, as we've come to know it, is built by these artificers named Aholiab and Betzalel. Deuteronomy doesn't even mention those guys. So it's interesting. It's just some points that we're going to bring up.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, there are, according to some students of Scripture, if you look, there are two versions of the 10 words as we understand it. Deuteronomy 5 and Exodus 20. They don't read the same. There are differences between those two. We're going to have to dig into that. I mean, in other words, a lot of people shy away from those puzzling questions in the text. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to dig in.
Talking about the differences in the tablets.
Well, the difference is in Exodus 20, which says Exodus 20 is the relating of the 10 words at Sinai.
Okay.
If you read that, I am the Lord your God who brought you, and you put that side by side with Deuteronomy,
A little different.
there's a little bit of difference there.
Okay.
Now, my question is still, what went on the tablets? We have two versions. And then there's even another version that's communicated in the Torah when we talk about the second set that we have to dig into as well. This is fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me-
However, comma,
yeah.
if we presume with some authority that Moses actually wrote a good portion of Deuteronomy, I'm willing to lean towards the fact that the Creator handed these tablets to Moses, say, here you go, take them down to your people. And he goes, so he would have seen what's on there. So I'm guessing when he told everybody what's on the tablets, that's pretty much what was on the tablets.
That's right.
So I'm willing to go with Deuteronomy for that one.
But did he paraphrase, or
That's a
did he
logical-
actually?
One is like the Living Bible, and one is like the King James version of the Ten
Hey,
Commandments.
Moses
Moses
more
didn't
literal.
do one time what God told him. You know how that worked out.
Well, but there are
I'm
That
just
we know
saying,
of.
That we know of.
yeah. So there's some interesting things here. This
Yeah.
project that I'm working on, I'm really digging into the text of Deuteronomy. And one of the things that we're looking at in Deuteronomy, between Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5, is I want to really get at what are those differences. Now, both are believed traditionally to be an accurate accounting of what took place at Sinai.
I'm looking at one of the responses, and it is basically, was the first tablet destroyed because of sin? And so the story is Moses had the original tablets, and the people had the golden calf going on.
Yeah.
Because he was 40 days. They thought he was.
Where'd this guy go?
Right. So
Yeah.
he saw that, and he got mad, and destroyed the tablets. Now,
Yeah.
Is that were the first tablets destroyed because of sin? Is the question.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's
whose sin we talking about here? Moses for
or
getting
the
mad, throwing the
people,
tablets
yeah,
down, or the people?
making the golden calf.
well,
So-
and we'll
Maybe that's
touch on
something
it.
we can talk about now.
But we
'cause
will.
then you
We'll
got
touch
more-
on it now
Since there
because
was a
that's
finished product, I'm thinking that God was okay with him getting mad for the reason he got mad.
people are down
Well,
He
there
gave
yeah,
another
saying,
side.
Yeah, but to the point where you
He had more than one
destroy it.
reason, maybe.
Huh?
He had more than one reason.
Well,
Or was he? Well, he wanted to destroy the people. Correct.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
what
he
is
just wanna wipe
he-
them out.
So
Start
when
over.
when Moses comes down, and this is next part of I got to get
Yeah,
into all
yeah,
it, but that's
yeah.
okay. Moses is coming down.
we got him. We got him. He
No,
gets
but you have to think about it
The
because
name
We
of
could
this
change by
is
next
dialogue. It's not. We got to get him.
yeah, we got to get Ross.
We gotta get it wrong.
So
I
they're
ain't gonna
coming
go
down.
that route.
He's coming down, and what's happening down below, Dave? You touched on it. The people have broken into this bad party, and it's really a bad party. In fact, Aaron, who is the high priest, is the ringleader. Now, a lot of people in Orthodox religious circles say, well, you know, Aaron, it wasn't
did the
really
best he
his
could do,
fault.
man. Come on.
It was all those Gentiles, this mixed multitude that led this to the sin. But we
my
get the
gosh.
story. Deuteronomy tells us, Moses tells Aaron, Jehovah was so mad he wanted to kill you. Now, that doesn't sound like, you would think Jehovah would know that it wasn't really Aaron's fault. It was really those Gentiles mixed in. But that's not what he says. He's mad at Aaron. You know why, Aaron? Because they go, hey, excuse me, where is this Moses? We don't know where he went. You know, we want some gods up in here. We got to have a party. And Aaron said, hey, ladies, gentlemen, bring your jewelry. Let's throw this in, make a mold, a molten calf, and they do, and everybody's dancing, having a hi-ho time, and Moses comes down, and he's upset, and he breaks the first tablets. They've never made it into the ark. He shatters them.
You don't deserve him.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if but he's mad.
Let
He
me
throws
ask
them
you
down.
something
Yeah.
about Aaron. Okay, so Aaron, seems to me he's like, by default, he's in some kind of leadership position here with the people. Why does he do this? I mean, is he just placating the people? Is he relenting to what the people want
Peer
versus
pressure.
what
It is.
God wants?
It's peer pressure
Is
in a
it?
way. Well, that and you know he doesn't have anybody got his back. I mean,
Yeah.
I can imagine this is a mass of people, and he's got to come up with something. You know, I don't know if we would have.
So you know, I like to go to. I like to kind of analogize.
Yeah.
Is that a word?
No.
Analyze.
Analyze.
Yeah, analyze.
Yeah.
Sure.
See, you're backward thinking.
But I like to analyze too.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like
Yeah.
so. Let's say a church. I don't know what denomination, but say a church, but the pastor is influenced by his congregation, financially, house, the whole works.
Yeah.
Would it influence how he preaches or talks or what he says?
Sure, obviously.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you know,
Look,
Well, and
people
to
want a
the-
guy
to
to
the-
I
give
had
them
to
a
figure out
guy.
how to phrase that.
Russ,
So-
Sorry, I just had
It's
to.
dealing with
Aaron's sitting here,
compromise.
you know, he's
It's
following
dealing with
along. Moses
compromise.
calling the shots, you know, and Moses
Okay.
disappears, and everybody's going like, Moses isn't coming back. He's dead. You know, he's gone. What do we do now, Aaron?
Yeah.
Well, don't you think we ought to have a calf?
Well,
What
We
did-
all
what I'm
got
trying to say
together
is
and
what-
we talked about it and we won.
What I'm trying to say
So he
is,
compromised,
no,
yeah.
you're missing me a little bit.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is, what did Aaron want? That's what I'm trying to get at.
That's what I was
Well, I
asking
don't
too.
know.
Does he
What did
want
Aaron
the praise
want?
of the people?
I don't know that
Does
we
he want
know.
the
We know
praise
what
and
he did.
approval? He wants
Yeah.
the approval of the people.
We know what he did, and what we know he did is they. One of the things that Aaron says when Moses said, "What happened?" Remember what he tells them? Look, we just threw this in, and out popped this calf.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I don't know that.
Ta-da!
Now that just doesn't even work. That
Doesn't matter what I want, that's what
It's
happened.
like something your kid would say.
Just telling you.
Yeah.
How did the vase
It
get
just
broken?
happened.
I don't
It
know.
just
It just
appeared.
fell over. You know?
Yeah. So there is some there's an avoidance of responsibility here. And biblical writers don't shy away from this. You know, whenever leaders make mistakes, it covers it. You
So
know,
And a
it's
lack of
fair to
faith.
say,
A
I'm
lack
gonna
of
give
faith.
Aaron the benefit of the doubt, cause,
Moses didn't.
I'm
but-
gonna be nice to Aaron,
All right.
okay? And it's like he was young, he was learning leadership. This was early in his leadership school,
Maybe.
I'm assuming.
I'm
Right.
just
What's the
personal
text say?
responsibility for your actions and,
Yeah.
you know, I
Yeah,
preach
yeah.
that
Yeah,
you made the choice, you
that's right.
This is a
deal with the
consequence, yeah.
consequences.
Live with it, can't
Personal
fly
responsibility.
your way out
Well,
of
what
it.
was
I
the
think what
consequence
Moses
make up
was
for
facts
telling
that
Aaron?
aren't
Aaron, that's
true.
pretty much what God thought.
What was the consequence for Aaron, though? I
He
don't
almost got
remember
killed.
exactly what.
Well, the bottom line is it came very close. God wanted to take him out. Moses interceded for him.
Okay.
Right.
So, but what happens, and this is the main gist of it. I know Sharon and others were saying, "Wait a minute, you know, I want some clarity here." So everything that I presented today, they're from descriptive text, which indicate to us what goes in the box, right? And then everything about the placement of the box. So the box, the ark, if you will, is this box that is going inside the tent, inside the Mishkan, inside the holy place, behind the veil. And in that box are going to go the 2 tablets, and this is where you're going to put. Now, but a lot of those texts that we read are before the tablets ever get in the box. I mean, they're describing, and you'll put this before this, and there's going to be a da-da-da-da. But we don't get the story of the document, the 2 tablets written from God's hand. They don't get in the box yet.
That's the time of the modern way of writing things.
I was
I'm just saying.
very careful. If you could see my notes, like what I did, you guys can, the rest of it. What I did was I listed every occurrence of this particular subject matter, every verse with a little bit of commentary of my own, like what's going on, the status, the situation, the history, the context. And then I read through them. And I first wanted to present to people that the testimony, not the Ark of the Testimony, not the tent, not the Mishkan, just the testimony. The 6 verses where testimony is used as just one word, the testimony. And then I wanted to bring those out and then build up to, and there's a screen of the testimony, and there's a tent, and there's a tabernacle. But in every one of these cases, like I stopped right before Moses breaks the tablets.
Okay.
So you haven't heard this story yet because he hasn't even broken the first set.
That's why I was trying to go to the people doing the calves and stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. You're
work on
right
that.
where we pick up. What happens? Moses is on the mount 40 days and 40 nights. He comes down, tablets in his hand. He comes down, and this is where we pick up.
I find it interesting that it took 40 days in the wilderness or in the mountain to get to this point in the story. I mean, God, here's the stone.
Yeah.
Well, all we really
Yeah.
know,
Maybe he had to study them and consider these
all
things.
we
yeah.
really know is Moses
They-
went up there
The-
and was there for 4.
Does
You
the
don't
text-
know any of the other conversations
Does-
he and God may have had.
Right.
I think we do.
imagine
Doesn't
it
the
was
Torah,
pretty heavy.
doesn't the Torah say that God and Moses talked about it, basically?
They did have some
Yeah.
conversations.
Okay.
And the question becomes, this is where a lot of people fill in the blanks.
Ah,
So you got these 2 sets of tablets, and he also gives him other laws and commandments and statutes and judgments, and so he comes down and he's got the
40
whole,
days worth.
you
I
know.
mean, yeah.
Look, these tablets hold a lot of memory. They could have.
I'm sure you can't just sit down and come up with this stuff right off the top of your head unless God's feet actually, you put your brain
Well,
in
let's
neutral
think
and
about
I'm gonna
this
do
for
the
a second.
talking, but.
Let's say
I'm
there's,
thi-
we think there, I don't even mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
No, so we, assuming, or is it text? I'm gonna rely on you guys to help me out with this. There's 10 of them.
10
There's
what?
10 of
10
something.
words, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's 10 of,
Matters.
so 10 divided by 40 is what?
A quarter,
2.5? I mean,
Yeah,
come on.
yeah,
I
2.5.
got a calculator here.
well, 0.25.
That's how many days
quarter
you
of a
spend on
quarter.
each one of these points.
Well, I'm not sure that's all they did because.
Well, we don't, the text, what's the
I
text say?
understand, but
Yeah.
later on, when he sits down with the people,
This is
he
fun.
comes up with all
I'm gonna go pop
kinds
some
of.
popcorn.
He does stuff like, okay, if so-and-so's ox falls in a ditch and, you know, all the other things he said, this is how you're gonna act. Where do you think he got all the information? God and him
Right.
must have had some really good sit-down
But let
times.
me.
That's
but
what
let
I'm
me-
saying.
Yeah,
So let me throw some more
What-
into the mix.
But God, what if? Go ahead.
So the question becomes, is this the only 40-day period he spends with
No.
God? So people have to think, okay.
A day a
So
year.
here's the assignment. The assignment is, it's fun to, you know, kind of guess. The assignment is, what does it say in the story if we read it?
Right.
What is it? What is the order? So far, what I've done is I've shown people we're going to make a box, we're going to make a tent, we're going to make a mishkan, we're going to make all of these things to house the testimony. We talked about what is going to be on the testimony. What does it look like? How big is it? All of these details. And then the next logical question is, do they make it, the first set, do they even make it to the tent? Into the box?
I'm even not sure they made it down the mountain.
So
All
from
the
this
way.
point
It
forward,
depends.
Oh,
Yeah.
from this point
Partway.
forward, we've got, you know, sort of a mystery going on. Again, one of the main things is the
What?
reason it's important. There are things in the Bible we can say this is divinely inspired and it's all from God, and but when we talk about the edut, the testimony, now remember, Deuteronomy doesn't call it the testimony, never calls it the testimony, but it is called the testimony in Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers. In Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers, this testimony, which we also know is called the covenant, and it's called the 2 stone tablets, and so forth. All of this is to represent a house, if you will, for this precious thing. This precious thing contains something that is described as the work of God, the writing of God, engraved in these stone tablets.
So the testimony is also the covenant. And so if we are keeping the 10 matters, then we are in the covenant. Is that correct?
That's the idea, is that the covenant, it's called the covenant in Deuteronomy, the covenant that he gave to them from the mountain, from the midst of the fire. You saw no form, you only heard the words. These words that shook you and scared you to the core were then engraved on stone tablets. That's the covenant. What are they? And you read Deuteronomy 5, and there they are. Here it is. These 10 things were communicated and written by the finger of God.
Oh,
Laura Bell.
I just got an epiphany
All right.
about
All
the
right.
stone tablets and writing the words on your heart
Yeah.
and how he will take a stony
That's the
heart
third class. That's-
and make it a heart of flesh. And lately my prayer has been, oh, Father, give me a tougher skin and a softer heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I can get offended, feelings hurt, all that easily,
Yep.
and that's not good. So that's interesting. I wonder if there's a
Oh, there is.
correlation there
Well, that's
about
when,
the
you
words
know,
being written on the stony heart.
in
versus
recent
the flat heart
classes
of
when I
flesh.
taught about, the Torah on the heart, all of this stuff we're going to be able to go through because now it's appropriate. We're leading up to Shavuot, which is sometimes called Pentecost. Now, biblically, there's nothing that says that Shavuot is a festival to commemorate the giving of the law, right? Matan Torah. Judaism has made that association, and there's good reason. In other words, you can look at the text and go, well, it's about the right day, you know, they're in the third month and so forth. But that's another class. But we're going to get to that. But the idea is that ultimately, these 10 words, the covenant. Now people go, wait a minute, what about this law and what about this? And this is all part of the covenant. People get confused because they try to look at.
I know Amy Johnson's asking, so is eating kosher a statute or judgment? It's like, there's the covenant words. What are the statutes and the judgments? And I know Jodell's gone through done a lot of work on that.
Yeah.
So is eating kosher, what is that considered?
Well, first of all, there
and
according.
it's chasing a rabbit.
No, it is, but only because last week's class, you know, or the week before, whenever I did the 613 and okay, so you've got these 613 as they're defined, but I'm talking about just right now 10 words. Now, this is part of what you might say is the broad. Look, there are a lot of covenants in Scripture. There are a lot of laws, statutes, judgments, you know, and we can work through the different words that are used.
Definitions.
But yeah, the definitions.
What defines what is what?
But the bottom line is what actually gets on the rocks, on the stone. That's the main point right now. Now, this became such a big deal because in the Second Temple period, people began to think that these were the most important. Now, guess what? I would raise my hand and say, I agree they are. But that became an issue. So the Menim, what are called the heretics, guess who that is? That's those Christian people a lot of times. They were saying, hey, the 10 Commandments are the most essential ones. You had other teachers at the time who said, we don't want to differentiate between one law and another law. It might be just as important. We don't know what the rewards are for keeping these, so let's not place them in a hierarchical order. So they didn't want to advance the 10 words as being on a different place. But what I would say, my understanding is that these 10 things, they are the foundation of society. They are the foundation of what is just and righteous.
Instructions.
They're the testimony, the witness from Jehovah that is like the basis for everything else.
Let me go back to that point you made about, was it in early Christianity where they wanted to say, during that time period where they wanted to say, no, let's don't
Place them in order.
Would that be where that idea of if you break one, you might as well break them all, or you're guilty
Could be.
of all?
It could
that
very well
none
be. Because
was-
you want to put it all on
Yeah.
the same level. And
Yeah.
But these 10, we call them the Big 10, top 10, God's top 10 list. He could have written anything he wanted on those stone tablets. Think about that. Could have written anything, but instead he says these 10. Now you can look categorically, you can take each of these different points. You can take each of these points and find other laws, statutes, judgments that fit nicely under them. You know, like these are major categories, if you will. But again, separate from thinking of them in that sense, they're the Big 10. They're the ones that God wrote with his finger.
I was torn between, because you said, you know, a lot of Bibles don't use the right translation, that change the Hebrew. And my translation actually says, and he added nothing.
I like
So,
that. That's even better. Yeah.
This is the,
That's the New World Translation.
yeah.
Yep. That.
Wow.
Now, a lot of people get all sketchy over that. They go, oh man, that's a Jehovah's Witness translation. Look, I can tell you this. From the Hebrew, that is a very accurate translation. I like it. I don't use it personally. Most of the time I'm looking at the Hebrew, and but that is a very good
It's a
translation.
free Bible.
That's
Yeah,
right.
there
I'm
you
all
go.
about free.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hey,
You know?
that's good
That's why we
economics.
have so many translations at our
Yeah.
house, because Dave's mom was the church librarian, and she was always culling the books. and
Right.
getting us-
As long as you don't go worshiping that translation.
No.
Okay,
no.
well, so
Yeah.
speaking of translations,
All right.
this is a point I wrote several times.
Okay.
Tell me the difference, why, the significance of the covering
Mm-hmm.
versus, in my translation, says mercy seat.
Uh-huh.
You're like saying it's a veil, it's a covering. This is saying it's a mercy seat. What, is that a mistranslation? What is the concept of the mercy seat?
Yeah, when we get into the ark, one of the things is the confusion over translation. So you have a box with a cover on it. Now, a lot of times in English translations, that cover is called the mercy seat. Okay. Now, what we get in translations a lot of times is a basically just an interpretation as opposed to a translation. So let me pull something up here. Let me get an example
you
so
can
that
see
I can
that
look at it.
The connotation of mercy seat, that's like, whoa, what is this? It's like, you could make all kinds of analogies.
Oh,
with
yeah,
that
well, you
and
bring in
tie
theology.
Theology to that.
You bring in theology. So here's an example. If I go to Exodus 25:19, you hear that rain? 25:19. Okay.
Had a little flash going at the same time.
Okay. In the translation where it says mercy seat, now that sounds real theological. I mean, a mercy seat, because that's the seat where mercy is dispensed from.
That's the one I want.
Man, I want a mercy seat. That's right. That's exactly what I want. But here's what the Hebrew is called a kaphoret. Now, this word is from the root word kafar. It sounds like an English word, cover. It's a cover. So you have a lid on it. It's a box with a lid. Now, lid doesn't sound nearly as theologically advanced. That's right. Lid, if I said, and sit upon the lid or the top or that doesn't sound near as cool as mercy seat, right? Seat, here's
So
the
that's
thing.
The picture, it's like, who's gonna sit on it? You know, it's like the seat.
Okay, but think, well, it becomes later associated with the throne of God. But here's the point. If I tell you that mercy seat is a bad name because neither the word mercy or seat is reflected in the Hebrew,
That's what
I hate to be a fun sucker.
No.
I hate to be the guy that robs you of that joyful translation. But kaphoret, the cover, the lid, is a lid. It's look, the box, the ark sound. I mean, we got to go searching for the ark, the lost ark, and the box. It's the box. Our own. It's a box. We know how big it was. We know.
That's the second box.
Well, they don't know about a second box. They don't know anything about a second box. Ain't nobody know about a second box.
We haven't talked about that.
Yeah. So
Jerry's trying, Jerry's going where theologically,
That's a
is
tough
it the
one,
covering, it's the covering of Jehovah that contains mercy? Well, that's it, Jerry. It's like, in the original Hebrew, it doesn't have anything to do with mercy.
well, and I would say it this way because I don't want people to think there's not mercy being dispensed from God. There
No,
is
no.
mercy.
But this
But
thing,
here's what we do. We have theological words, parochial language. Here's one, atonement. Atonement. You know what atonement in English comes from at one, A-T-O-N-E, at one. It means to make atonement, to bridge the gap, to bring me in relationship, atonement. It's this beautiful theological word, but typically the word is translated from a Hebrew word that just simply doesn't say atonement. Yom Kippur, or Yom HaKippurim, as it really is in the Hebrew, is the day of atonement in English translation. It's the day of covering.
reconcile.
It's the day of covering.
It's formed on that
So-
idea of getting back together. Yeah.
That brings me to my testimony, because we're
Your
in
testimony?
in these translations. It says in mine it says testimony, but in others it says covenant.
Right.
And is there in Hebrew is there a distinction between testimony and covenant?
They're both are used. Both are used in the text. At times, this is called the box of the testimony. At times, it's called the box of the covenant. I'm using box on purpose just to make you
Right.
think. You could say ark. There's the
us a picture.
ark of the covenant and an ark of the testimony. It's not two separate boxes. It's the one. But they both, so we know that what goes in the box is consistent. You got a box. In the box can either be called the testimony or it can be called the covenant. So it's sometimes in the text it's used as covenant, sometimes
So
not.
it's interchangeable.
It is.
Testimony
So
and
have we
covenant
done-
is
Even
interchangeable.
the Noah's Ark, from what I understand, was basically a big box.
Yeah, that's right.
It looked, at least the Hollywood version is for sure, but, what I've read in the text, it seems
Big old
to be,
rectangular box.
yeah, it's a
So-
box,
So
It's
I've
called
heard
an
you,
ark.
I've
something
heard
that saves
you
something.
refer to in your teaching before that there was actually a box that the box went into.
That's what Dave's talking about.
Yeah, okay, so
We're not
what
into
is-
that this
we're
week.
not into that this week?
Not
Can't
yet.
talk about
Okay.
that.
That's
You
it.
can't talk.
Because that's always spoke volumes to me about
Yeah.
searching for the box inside the box.
Yeah. Yeah, you ever,
I'm
you
too
ever,
big to get in the box.
you ever, yeah, some of us refuse to get in the box, but but think about right now, the main thing that I want people to get is that, in my opinion, and in the writer's opinion of the Bible as I understand it, the main thing, the one thing that God wrote is 10 words on 2 stone tablets. Now, there's one other text that might suggest one other thing, but I'll get into that later. It's not worth bringing up at this point. The main thing that we need to know is that you have 2 tablets. They're the work of God. They're written with the finger of God. On these 2 tablets is a covenant. And the covenant that's on not the Noah covenant, not the Adamic, people want to say, well, it had all these laws and everything. He says very clearly, which covenant? The one that Jehovah spoke to you out of the midst of the fire. You didn't see a form. And it's in the same passage, Deuteronomy 5. So that's what goes on. These then are to be taken and put in the box. Moses takes them. I don't want to drop this. He takes them in one hand, and he goes down. He starts going down. Now, he knows something's going on. Now, what he witnesses causes him to break the original.
The original 15, right?
Yeah, remember that? Father Guido Sarducci?
Here are 10.
Or milk.
Here are
Yeah.
15.
They said that the commandments that got broken. Yeah. Yeah, y'all all saw that. No, but it was, but that was broken. So they never made it. Now, of course, legend picks up and says, well, the pieces were in the box too. I don't know. It doesn't say that.
So there was a question earlier, is it possible Moses,
Yeah, it did.
broke the original tablets because the people had broken the covenant? Did they know the covenant yet?
Well,
They didn't know it because he had just come down from the mountain with them.
wait, we had to think. You gotta, this is what I want people, I don't want to answer everything. I want people to think, but think about
that's what I'm
this week.
thinking.
Here's what you think about. At what point in the narrative have all the people heard these rules? Okay, now if you go to Exodus 32, where the people are down there having their party, it's Exodus 19 and
They
20.
knew something.
Exodus 19 and 20, where this covenant is given.
Yeah.
Now, the question becomes, is that chronological or what? I mean, we have to
In other
read the
words, They could
text.
have heard it, like when he descended, the cloud descended in the fire and everything.
Mm-hmm.
They could have heard it, but it wasn't written until later.
Yeah.
And-
Don't make a golden calf.
Yeah.
I don't
Has to
think
get more specific, doesn't it? But we do know that chronologically things, according to the text, we have a series going on. Now, Exodus 16, I brought this up today. Exodus 16 is clearly not chronological because he's telling, while he's talking about the manna, the writer says, let me tell you about this manna. This manna fed the children of Israel for 40 years in the wilderness. They ate it on and on and on. But here's the deal. They hadn't been in the wilderness yet 40 years. So it's a retrospective. The writer is inserting that. While I'm on the subject of the manna, I'm going to give it to y'all.
So having looked back at thousands of years of history, both in writing and in videos, my observation is that people tend to make things much more complicated than they have to be.
Yeah?
The Father of creation came down and said, listen, children, I got 10 things I want you to understand. This is what's important to me.
Make it simple for
That's
you.
what he said. 10, you got 10 fingers. I'm
Yeah.
giving you 10 things.
That's
to
what
think
Dave
about.
Tyler always says.
Oh,
You
no,
have
wait,
10.
wait. I'm saying this is a shout out to Red Tyler. Remember the
Oh,
time
yeah,
he
Red.
stood up
Yeah.
and he said, "Y'all are making this too complicated. It's simple."
Yeah.
It's simple.
That's
It
right.
really is. If you will follow these instructions, what I'm telling you, you're not going to get in trouble. If you don't follow my instructions, it's going to be bad for you. It's the same thing you would say to your children,
Yeah.
is what he told us.
Yeah.
Either behave or you're going to get it.
Yeah.
And when they don't behave, they get it. And we have lots of pages of them getting it.
Yeah. David Connolly points out that the JPS uses pact instead of testimony. Sometimes a covenant is translated as pact or agreement. That's
And it's the
really
same-
the idea.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's
Yeah.
just-
Yeah, but that's not the way it's written. When you read it, it says, "You will put no gods before me." I mean, he's laying down the law. You will not covet. You will not possess. You will not do this. I mean, it's not like, do you agree? I don't care if you agree or not.
Yeah.
These are the rules.
Yeah.
But if you break the pact,
But he does
or the
call it a covenant.
Yeah.
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 Then
As long as
these
you
are the
obey,
things
you're
that'll
going to
happen
be
to
okay.
you. They're
Now,
not good.
That's the covenant.
You guys bring up an interesting point.
You're buzzing noise.
Yeah.
Oh,
There
beat
is. I do. I hear it. I thought it was just me,
I
but
thought it was-
you hear it
I
too.
thought- No, I could really hear it there, and I was like, "What's that?" So
Well,
Yeah.
Miriam just brought up what I said about if you break one, you've broken them all. Isn't that New Testament writing though? Is that in the Torah?
Well, there's one passage in the curses where it says, "Cursed is he who does not uphold all of the the covenant." So that's the idea in the New Testament. The New Testament, primarily Paul wants to say everybody's under a curse.
yeah, you
you
got to
know,
be perfect.
so you're
but
all-
you can't be perfect.
Well, that's the idea is that if you failed in one, you failed in them
Yeah.
all. But I think none of us had I did this on purpose. My method to my madness. Last week we talked about all the commandments. And you can't keep all of them. Nobody can because they're not all intended for everybody. A man can't keep a woman's commandments, so that's not what this is talking about. But it's still the point is you can't.
keep. You can't.
You need to keep them. That's right. You need to and you can. Yeah. And people go, what about sacrifice? You can't keep that because there's no temple and and so forth. So
Speaking of one of the commandments, I
Yeah.
did want to share with everybody. I had asked a prayer request
For your mom?
to pray for my mom.
Yeah.
When I went to see her yesterday, she was cheerful. There was a light in
Good.
her eyes again, and I just thank Jehovah that I had her back for a minute.
That's good.
So thank
That's
you
good.
all for praying for
yeah,
Mama.
keep lifting her. 103.
Almost 104. She gonna be
October,
104,
right?
Ross.
October?
Yep.
Oh yeah, she said. I remember way back when she was saying, "I think I'm gonna be 100."
I know.
Yeah. I remember Dave saying, "Not in my house." Oh man, that's
All right,
funny.
yeah.
Anything bad about that?
Hey,
Honor your
look.
mother and your father.
She is so sweet though.
She
All
can
right,
be.
so that's good, but keep lifting her up in prayer. But this idea of the 10 words and their centrality in God's unfolding redemptive purposes and so forth is very, very key in understanding everything. I think we have to put this where it belongs. Think about it. If you have a box that's, set up at the center of everything and it's contained this, and then on the outside of that you have a covering, and everything is about the testimony.
It reminded me of children's songs, like there was an old lady who swallowed a fly.
Yeah.
She swallowed this.
Yeah.
You could do a really cute little
A
song.
little children's song. That's a good idea.
That describes either way.
There's a tent. There's a
tent.
box in the middle of the tent.
Uh-huh.
There's 2 stone tablets in the box, and the cover, and the veil, and the tent, and the mishkan.
Uh-huh.
So
I'll work on it.
writing on the heart means you don't have to go back to the stone tablet and read it to say, I just can't remember anymore. Is this one of those rules?
You know what?
You ought to know them.
That's what I hear Mama saying sometime, and her memory's gone, but she's still in her heart. We don't hate. We
Yeah.
don't, we love. It's
Yeah.
the basic things
Right.
are there.
There,
Oh yeah.
in
I bet
looking
she
at this,
does.
I pulled up a news article on the earliest known stone inscription of the Ten Commandments. And it sold for $850,000.
Oh my goodness, no! Somebody got away with that.
But it's a 2-foot square piece of marble. It weighs 115 pounds.
Just one of them?
Just one. It has 9
Moses.
of the 10 on it. It doesn't have.
The Sabbath.
It does not have the Lord. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain on it. It only has 9.
go
I don't know
figure.
why.
I guess once they started chiseling, they said, "You left out." Oh man, they won't notice.
Nobody
Oh,
did.
This thing would be worth
$800,000
$800,000
See,
We
that's
anyway.
better not
probably
put
what
his
happened to
name on it. We better
Moses
not
when
say
he's
this is
writing
him.
everything. God said, "You made a mistake," and he goes, "All right, I'm
Yeah,
starting over."
start over. Well, I want people to think about, do a little bit of homework this week, because I want you to know we've got 2 sets. We've got what some scholars say within the text are 3 versions of the 10 words. 3. Now I think a lot of people, if you're here, you're not looking just for the traditional view and what people always say it says. What you're looking for is, what does the text actually say?
Yes.
So even when we get to challenge things, we do it respectfully, but I'm bringing people to the text because I love the text and I know you love the text. And to me, it's worth everything to know. Just to know. I just want to know. I want to know the details. I want to know at what point. For me, it's important to notice that Deuteronomy never uses the word edut. Never.
Wow.
It never mentions the tabernacle of the edut or the tent of the edut. It never mentions the ark of the edut. Why? Now, some people would say, I don't know, it doesn't matter. I want to know, why is it that Numbers, the book of Numbers, is the only one that uses some phrases and the other books don't? Why is that? How is it that we've come to this place? So I encourage you, as you study, to look for the details, because quite often the details are what really make us understand what's going on here. That to me is important.
Miriam has a question for you. Was there cherubim guarding the ark in the wilderness?
According to Exodus 25, the cherubim are placed on top of the box. Now they're figures. They're not like real,
The real.
but they're figures
The big box.
on the big box.
I wouldn't, this is John, yes, the figures, but I wouldn't think there would need to be anything guarding the box as the creator of the universe was there with them.
In the form of a
And-
cloud or a pillar of
And no,
fire. Yeah.
nothing could, I mean, there's nothing that could take on the creator of the universe. So,
It's only later when David messes up that
I mean-
somebody else gets it.
he,
Right?
he destroyed Egypt. I mean, and he did it
Yeah.
all by his onesie.
You're just saying you don't need an alarm system at the tabernacle. You can leave,
That's
you can
right.
leave the tent door rolled open.
That's right.
Well, I mean, the ones in the Genesis story were to keep man from re-entering into
Right.
And
the tree
was
of
that
life, get the
cherubim
tree
or
of
was
life.
that the
So maybe this
Nephilim?
is the idea that to keep man gardening it from
The guards.
this is there to guard yourself from yourself, basically, you know. Because I mean, golly, sneak in there and put another one on, change it.
Yeah.
But he was
But
with them all the time.
I'm looking at like, you know, what was. I'm putting myself in Moses' shoes now. That's terrible.
Sandals.
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 He might have been barefooted because he was on the holy ground.
No,
Yeah.
he said that. and
He
she
was
didn't wear
sometimes.
out.
Yeah, so,
Good
I mean,
point.
yeah.
Shoes
So he had by God's own finger instructions. One of them was about worshiping God, God only, and the people are not doing that. He breaks the stones, but he had by the finger of God go down there and say, "Look, guys, this is wrong," you know. But so my point is. The biggest sin in my mind is Moses breaking the stones. I mean, golly, that's just me. I'm sorry. You know, people were doing some crazy stuff down there, but
He could have. You think could have handled it differently?
Okay, but would that have been idolatry for him to be worshiping the stones, like making them?
I mean, God did make him make his own stones
Sacred.
over.
Like,
we haven't got there yet. You can't do that.
Wait, did he? Did he or did?
Or you know, and I find it odd that the according to the story, the reason Moses didn't go in the promised land because he hit a stone. I mean,
no,
Look.
what's up with this
because he misrepresented God before the people.
stuff? Maybe
Now,
so.
whether you do this homework assignment or not is
Trying to get
irrelevant. Doesn't matter because I'm still going to cover the material. I'm going to cover it because
Still don't make us think.
I'm still going to make you think. But here's what I want you to do. We tend to read the Bible. I learned this listening to who was the scholar. I'll think of it because I want to give credit. I just
Moses?
can't think of who it was. But he said, Bart Ehrman. It was a Bart Ehrman class, and Bart said, people. He's talking about the Gospels, but it works in the Torah as well. He said people read the Gospels vertically. They read Matthew 1:1 all the way to the end. Then they read Mark all the way to the end. Then they read Luke all the way. Then they read John. And he goes, you're reading it vertically. But he goes, where you learn is where you read horizontally. So what does Ross do? This is a secret. This is my big secret. This is how other than I look at every single occurrence. So you got to do that too. But what I do is I look horizontally. If there is mention of a box, the ark, in Exodus, and it describes it, I'm going to say, okay, that's what Exodus says. What about Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy? Is it the same? Do we have distinct differences? And if we do, why?
Did the box change?
And so what we want to do is we want to look horizontally. The 10 words, are they called the 10 words in all the text, or are they called the stone tap? So you create sort of a grid. People who've studied with me in front of a dry erase board have seen me do this, where I'll say, okay, this language, this phrase, this word is used 7 times, but it's only used in these books. I mean, I do that all the time. So I'm going to encourage you this week. This is my wrap-up sort of thing for this week. Look at the story of the second commandments, the second set, not the first set. I did that for you. I did all the work for you. All you have to do is take the notes or read John Baruch Perry's notes. Now we're beginning with, he's coming down the mountain. He'll be coming down the mountain with the tablets. What happens from that point on? What happens? Because we're going to pick up with the journey down the mountain with what was called the work of God, written with the finger of God, mizeh, from this and from that. And what happened?
See, I was having trouble keeping up with where we're supposed to stop talking at. You know, not that I'm scared.
No,
of
no,
anything, I'm just
no.
saying,
That's all right. You did
what,
fine.
What happened on top of the mountain is what we've been talking about today.
Yep.
Yeah,
This
I
is
was
this
talking
is
about what happened when it came
the
down.
communication of the first
Let's
tablets.
start over.
Yeah. No, that's all right. No, because I want people to be
All
thinking
All you
about
gotta do
that.
is go back and listen.
I'm just saying, 40 days on top of the mountain with God, they had to be talking about a whole bunch of things.
Right.
Well, but
I
so
just-
that's your assignment is this week read it and see where are they talking about a whole bunch
Well,
of
they
things.
didn't feel like telling anybody about it.
Maybe they did tell people about it though.
Later on, no.
I just have a
But maybe it
problem
says.
with
And you don't, well, it does about
Did
some
they-
things in the instructions that
did they have
Moses
the
gives
right-
them, but you don't know if it's like God said, look, Moses, this is just between you and me, and tells him
It's on,
something.
it's on
I don't
a
know.
right to
No,
know
but
basis.
what I'm suggesting
Need to
though
know,
is
need to know.
Need to know basis,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
but what I'm suggesting is
Sure.
within the text, does it say that God told him other things? And if he told him other things, and does it say that he gave him other laws? And if he gave him other laws, what it still doesn't affect what was written on the tablets.
Right. God wrote
That's
that.
Right.
absolutely correct.
You're right.
That's absolutely, it was those, I'm reading ahead, but I mean, that's
No, it's
what he
on the mountains,
discussed
what we're talking about.
in the rest of Deuteronomy, where he is, you know, it wasn't the rules according to Moses.
Yeah.
He's saying this is, you know, this is the way God wants you to act and what
Yeah.
you need to do and how you need to judge things and how you need to look at things.
So if everybody's clear, what
I have a hard time imagining Moses hanging out with the creator of the universe for 40 days. The creator of the universe writing with his own finger on stone tablets, handing to say it's me, I'm Moses, and me going down, even though I'm angry as all get out
Did
when
it
I'm
say
seeing,
he handed it to him?
destroying them. These are the, am I elevating these stone tablets too much?
No,
by
I think he was
thinking
just so mad at those people that he was like, you don't deserve these
he's out of
things from
control?
God.
He's
Well-
out of
What's the text
control.
say?
It's like,
What's the text
how could you be holding in your hands these inscriptions written by the finger of God and not see them as something sacred and
I like let me throw this out there. I don't talk about this very much, but when I read the text, when any of us read the text and you get to know someone, like I feel like I know Moses from the text. I know Moses from the text.
From what you can read.
Yeah, I mean, there are clues. Moses has some very good qualities. Moses is a defender of the people. We learned from the very beginning, Moses comes to the defense of a man who is being beaten to the point that he kills the other guy.
I wonder if he
He
had
snapped.
red hair.
Moses
I
snapped.
don't know, maybe.
He had a temper.
No, but let me roll on this. Think about this. He defends somebody. That's a good thing. His anger, his zeal is also evident. Like he kills the guy.
Yeah.
Now people go, well, it wasn't murder. It was look. He kills the guy.
God didn't go
But he-
that day.
He's passionate.
crime.
He's passionate.
crime
Now,
of passion.
let me give you another example. He's out and these girls are being picked on at the well, and he
Yeah.
comes to their defense. He's bold, he's brave, he's courageous, he's zealous. Now, look, you start reading the story, the accounts that we have of Moses. When he strikes the rock, we get this image. He's this old, and the
Yeah, yeah.
Lord
Old
said
papa.
unto me, he's fire
The
filled.
only quality, the only thing we know really about Moses in the weak area is that he's tongue. He couldn't speak exactly. He stuttered or something. But he was not weak. He was not.
Yeah, he could, and so the idea though is that
Strong.
we know a little bit about him, and we have to, as I read the text, I want to understand based on what I read. It's just reading comprehension basically. If you read something, when I come across something about Moses, I'll take a note and I'll go, this indicates to me that Moses is very passionate. This indicates that Moses is the defender of the downtrodden. Moses this, Moses that. So you start to get a character sketch and you begin to understand the characters in the text. Very important. Don't just read them about these literary characters. try to understand where they're coming from. So by the time you get there, how many times does Moses say, just take me out? I mean, I've done everything I can do. The burden is too heavy. If you won't go with me, just blot me out of your book. Now this is Moses. Why would somebody, you might go, I'd never say that. No, but you wouldn't. But Moses would. That's what I'm saying. Get to know him. He's an either or character.
Yeah.
He's black and white. He's not one of these fudging on the, well, maybe we can waffle and understand. He's like, look, line up. Everybody that's for Jehovah, get on this side. If you're not, get over here. You guys kill those guys. Now, people might go, I don't like that Moses. Look, that is Moses. Moses is zealous. Moses is passionate.
One way or the other.
Now,
He's a defender of God, and God was a defender of him.
that's right.
That's right.
And they have a good working relationship. But there are times where Moses comes across in our modern way of thinking as, the guy's he's a little bit harsh. But I want you to remember that when God first chose him, he's looking at all the qualities that Moses possesses. Among them are a defender of the helpless, but also somebody who will zealously. Now, by the same token, Moses also understands, he pushes God when God says, you're not going to go into the land. Remember what he says in Deuteronomy? Lord, I really wish you'd reconsider. And God said, don't talk to me about this again. You know what
I'm gonna let you look at it.
Yeah, but he says, don't say another word about that. You know what? Moses' personality, to me, when I read Moses, I think he probably thought, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, he tries. Moses is going to push, but once that's it.
You did your job.
And the same Moses, when he's had enough, he's had enough. I
You
think.
want meat? God's going to give you so much meat, it's going to come out of your nostrils.
Yeah. Okay. Amy has a good question.
Yeah, I was just trying to
Yeah,
answer it. It's
that
gotta be a derogatory.
No.
What is it?
No, it's that too is in next week's class. We talk about Moses. Moses is depicted with horns. Good trivia question for you. How do we get that? Like Michelangelo, he and I have one of those in my office of Moses with the horns. Why the horns? Remember when he comes down? This is right where I left off. It says the English translation indicates that Moses has these beams, his face is beaming. Well, the Hebrew was translated a certain way, which made it come across to people like you have these horns coming out. But it has to do with the translation, so we'll talk about that.
Rays, not horns, rays of light.
And Vicky says it's Christian art, mistranslation of Hebrew.
Yeah,
Horns.
that's right.
Horns.
That's right. All right, so it is. There is a
This has been
wonderful.
good.
Yeah, this is
discussion.
fun stuff. Fun stuff. You guys, I appreciate the dialogue because you're all thinking deeply about these texts. The assignment for those who wish to accept it is to read from the coming down of the mountain with the first set. Because that's all we've done so far. We know we've got a box to put them in. We've got a tent to put the box in and a holy place
Now we're
behind a
coming down
veil.
the mountain with the tablet.
Got the tablets. The box is empty.
Okay.
Box is empty.
Is there
Nothing
a
in the box.
Is there a box?
There is a box.
There is a
Nothing's
box.
in the box. He's coming down.
Where's the box at?
So we have to come down. Yeah.
No, I'm just,
Homework.
no,
Yeah,
no,
in the
no.
tent. In the tent. All right. So it's what it says. So this is where you're going to go. You're going to go in the tent behind the veil of the covenant and so forth. And
I still want to know what those four substances, words I'm familiar with.
yeah. You can, frankincense is clearly one that everybody knows. Yeah.
But there's some others there that.
You're
Yeah.
talking about the veil, the cover
Yeah,
there?
it's that they
Yeah,
beat all
animal
these
Smoke,
and they made
the
a
smoke.
Animal skin
kind of a
Incense.
incense out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you burn incense and it makes it smoke and all that. It's got a good fragrance
Well,
smell
no
to it.
quality.
And then my question with Ross was, when are you going to put all that together in your beard bomb?
Well, I already used some of
There
those in the
there
beard
But
bomb.
was-
you use equal portions of those.
But wait, the question becomes,
some
does it not
incense.
say in the text not to use these on people? So I have,
On people.
yeah, so interesting. But there are some, that's a good question though.
Oh.
But if you use parts of it, different, so that's what I've done is I've used some of those.
It's at equal parts, yeah.
So anyway, hey, it's fun. What's that?
I was just looking at the definition of VAIL, veil, and it's to take off or lower one's hat or crown as a token of respect or submission. The veil of covering.
No, we're talking about
It's
incense.
spelled that way.
They burn
Okay,
the incense.
veil, throw me off. Yeah,
It was a veil of smoke.
okay.
Yeah, a lot of this
I was
is
reading something very much about that,
language, translation and difficulties with maybe this word says this. So just remember,
One of our viewers was hacking the English language, and English language mess all this up.
yeah,
And I'm like, no, actually,
I did find
have
it
to-
interesting because I did list, as I was looking at the people posting, that there were people in Texas, Michigan, Minnesota, Kentucky, New York. I mean,
that's
it's-
fun. I always like that. I
It's-
like that.
Yep.
We reach people all over thanks to the modern
Well, there's
technology.
one lady in Florida. She's got a little group getting together, and what
Oh,
is
yeah,
that?
isn't that
What is that
something?
Israeli place?
Yeah.
Tel Aviv.
Tel Aviv, that's
Tel Aviv,
right.
Florida.
Shalom to Nancy and,
Yeah.
and the ladies that are with her today. We've got quite a bit going on. People are beginning to assemble and start small groups. I know Dave Tyler has said, he and Patty have talked about this for a while. They always have people invited to their home on Shabbat. And, they might teach, they might, but they're always part of what we do. And others can do the same thing, invite people over.
I've been in their home during the Sabbath. They're on a different time zone, so
Right.
it's 11. to
Oh,
them.
yeah.
Their time is 11 when it goes. So they actually have a dinner, a lunch,
Yeah.
a brunch.
Kind of
Right.
like we do.
And
Kinda like
well, I
that.
mean, but they do it before,
Next
Yeah.
time maybe I'll
And
bring
then-
my
and then-
popcorn
and then the
machine. We'll
ser-
have popcorn afterwards.
and then the service starts.
instead
That's right.
of German chocolate
So
cake.
they get together about 10 and have a meal. Basically
Yeah.
a nice little spread, and then
That's
and then
right.
they watched it on the big TV, sit in the living room, and it's like it was kind of neat because it's like, hey, I'm trying to listen to this.
Yeah.
Because there's
Yeah.
there's talking going on too. Like,
Well, it's-
I want to try to hear what you got to say.
I think it's good.
It's good.
Anytime
It's real
people can
good.
get together,
Real
and,
good.
and the beauty of this is you can invite people over and have a discussion and
Yes.
and put your comments up. I mean, so it really helps us to iron sharpens iron, as they say. So
A couple of people would come in.
Then there's the after show party.
yeah, yeah,
It's kind of neat. I'm just a picture of how it could be done in other places. Is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
They come in, a person comes in, and then they watch it, and then they leave. It's
Yeah.
basically
well, they can hang
can-
around and
or they
discuss.
do
Well,
other stuff
yeah.
or even show movies.
it's not like
we
you got to
did.
make a day out of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
show me,
You can say, look, I don't care where you go, but you got to go out of
You
here.
make it formal, but at the same time very informal and loose. We have a policy here pretty much. We've had people come in and say, look, I can't stay this long. Is it okay? No. Come
Yeah,
when you
come and
can
go.
and leave when you have to.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
what are you taking your coffee in the meantime?
That's
You know,
right.
That kind of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So we're talking about the testimony. We'll keep talking about it. We've got 3 more weeks. The third of those 3 is Shavuot. And so we'll be covering topics that are related to the central component, not only of God's way, but everything in the Torah looks at what we're talking about here. The 10 words. Have a beautiful week. Shabbat Shalom and Shavua Tov. If you want to keep talking about this, go to the Facebook group page. There's some great discussions already going on and discuss these things. What did you find? Let us know. And then next week I'll share my insights and then we'll talk about them.
But even the text on on Facebook, as long as you don't close out, you can continue to text.
Yeah.
To talk and discuss.
Oh, and Russ, you and I are still working on developing things for October and
That's right.
Sukkot.
That's right. We're working on the Sukkot celebration. That will be the weekend of the 18th through the 20th here. John's already secured a couple of reservation blocks at 2 different sites. Sherry found one that she's hooked us up with that we need to go talk to him on. So hopefully, in the next very short time, we'll send out a notice so that everybody knows here's who you call and here's what you reserve. And we got to do it this week, really, because October's busy here. You might not think that St. Francisville gets busy, but we have
Very busy.
October's very busy. They have weekends or for the Angola Rodeo, and they fill up. So we'll get those out to you. Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov, and have a beautiful week.